check this out. That right there is the M4. Let's talk about the M4. Can we talk about the M4? I've been dying to talk to you about the M4 all day, okay? PMag 60. I keep hearing this name. PMag 60. PMag 60. Well, I got boxes full of PMags! Before we get too far into how to make an M4, I wanted to highlight a few of the major important parts that you're going to need when you're trying to build out an M4. For example, these gas blocks here. In order to actually put on a lot of the handguards, you're going to need to remove that front sight gas block and use either the Mark 12 low profile or JP Enterprises gas systems. The JP is great because it gives you an extra 2 erg, and it's only 3k rubles more expensive. The M-Bus front and rear sights are also great to use, whether you actually look through them or just keep them on the gun for the added ergonomics bonuses. They each give you 1. Your upper receiver is important. You can use the standard Colt M4 upper receiver, but I prefer to use either the Gen 3, which gives you minus 2% recoil and plus 13 ergonomics, or the Vieltor Muris, or the Mur 1S, which gives you plus 2% accuracy, minus 5% recoil, and plus 8 ergonomics. This one, I lean toward this one more often, but the Gen 3 is great as well if you're going for a higher erg build. Raptor charge handle, pretty standard piece that you add to the M4. This gives you plus 3 erg. And then into some of the standard muzzle brakes that I like to use. You have the SAI jailbreak, which goes on the end of your SAI quad rail. This is more of your meta M4 pieces, as well as the Bullet Tech ST, which gives you minus 11 recoil, which you add that all together with these pieces, and that makes your 37 recoil M4s. A couple of my favorite attachments as well are the NT4 and the Wave. The Wave is by far the best suppressor that you can put on the M4, but the NT4 isn't bad. I use it all the time. It's a great budget option if you want to go quiet with your M4. And those, of course, need their own specific muzzle adapters, which would be the KAC QD compensator and the Daniel Defense muzzle brake for the Wave. One of my favorite handguards for the M4 is the LVOA. I prefer the long version. And this, while this isn't the best in terms of stats, it's one of my favorites just because of the aesthetic look of it. This one gives you minus 2% recoil and 10 erg. I already touched on the SAI quad rail, but this one is definitely one of the pieces you would use if you're building a meta M4 for the best recoil you can get. This is minus 3% recoil and 12 ergonomics. Talking about vertical grips or foregrips, lots of folks know that the RK2 immediately gives you the best recoil bonuses, but I really do like to use the Hera Arms CQR on the front of my M4s. I prefer it over the RK2 for M4s, but if you are going for maximum recoil benefits, you're going to want to use the RK2. But this grip gives you minus 4% recoil and plus 11 erg. And then, of course, everybody likes the gangster grip as well. You get minus 4% recoil, plus 4 erg. As far as pistol grips go on the M4, there's a ton of options. All of them are great as long as you don't use the standard, stock pistol grip. I like the Narrow Arms Growl S and the Stark AR. And even the overmolded rubber grip that you get on like your barter trade LVOA M4, these are all great. They do plus 15, plus 11, and plus 9 erg. And if you're not going for a high erg build, you probably don't care as much. But I try to get decently high ergonomics on all of my builds if possible. It just makes aiming snappier and makes it easier to sustain your aim. As far as your stocks go, these are a couple of the standards that I really like to use, especially the Hera Arms CQR. This is actually a pistol grip stock combo, so this would count as both your pistol grip and your stock. This does a total of minus 39 recoil and plus 18 erg. I'm sure everyone has seen the HK-E1. This is going to be part of your meta build. It's also a great stock to just use standard if you're not building out a meta gun. This also does minus 39% recoil, and then you get plus 3 erg, which then you can supplement with your pistol grip. And as far as a budget buttstock goes, the MFT bus is actually great. It's pretty cheap. You can get it for about $70 from Peacekeeper, and it also has minus 39% recoil with just a plus 1 ergonomics benefit. Of course, you can use the Colt Standard buffer tube or the ADAR buffer tube, but if you want to build out your gun and get some better stats on it, I recommend either the Strike Industries Advanced buffer tube, or if you really want to spend some cash, you can get the Advanced buffer tube in anodized red. Both of these are great. I typically go with the black tube because they're only 10k from mechanic, and they do a great job. It's minus 4% recoil plus 1 erg. On the anodized red, your additional benefits are going to be plus 5% accuracy and then plus 2 muzzle velocity. But honestly, I don't see all too much of a difference when I use them. So that's really at your discretion. And then finally, I just wanted to touch on the optics. I almost always use a Bravo 4 on my M4. I just prefer it that way. Some folks use the Valde or prefer to stick to red dots, but I like to add a Bravo 4 and then throw the NC Star backup mount with, say, a fast fire or a PK on it, and that's the way I use my M4. So these are a lot of the parts that I typically go for when building an M4. There are plenty more, but these are my favorites and just some of the ones I wanted to highlight before we get into actually building out these M4s. Alrighty, so we will start with just the base piece of the M4, and let's go through and check out a couple of these builds. So here is one of my favorite budget builds. It's relatively simple and pretty cheap to put together. I'm using the Mark 10 handguard, an RKO foregrip, the Bullet Tech muzzle brake just to get the highest recoil benefit that I can on a loud M4. I use the Elcan Spectre up top with the Mirrors on the upper receiver and an advanced tube and a bus stock. So obviously this is easiest to build if you have high-level traders. When we look at this, in order to build this with all parts from vendors, we're looking at 177. If I take away traders and remove a couple of pieces again, we don't need a whole M4, and we don't need to buy the barrel, so we've already got that. So this one runs you actually about 175k in order to put this one together. Of course, you can skip out on a couple of the more expensive pieces. You could change this narrow arms to, say, a Stark AR grip, or even keep your CA2 pistol grip. But this is one of my more budget builds for the M4. So this M4, you can actually trade mechanic 4 GP coins and it gets you up to here. All you need to really do is buy the NT4 Black to put on the end of it, and an optic and a grip, and you're pretty much off to the races. This might actually be the most budget M4 that you can get. Here is another one of my favorite builds. This one's going to run you a bit more to put together, but this uses the CQR, both stock and foregrip. I really like, especially the aesthetics of this gun. I like the way that the suppressor kind of hides inside that handguard there. It's got that little divot into the inside. This one's pretty much the same as the Space Trooper that you would get from Mechanic, although we've replaced the thermal and the canted sight with a Bravo 4 and a PK06 in order to put this one together. This one runs you about 271. Of course, that is because PK06 is way too expensive on the market right now. I would probably switch that out for a fast fire at this point. As well, in order to get the PMAG, I would recommend trading for it to Peacekeeper and not paying the ridiculous market prices. If we did that, we'd be looking at about 211k to put this M4 together. And kind of just a fun one to put together, really uses a lot of different parts than you normally see on an M4. You just make a tan gun, make a super tan man. You're using the RSAS handguard. I use an M-Lock foregrip on this. You've got your tan overmolded rubber grip. We've got a tan mag, the RC2 suppressor, which is also tan. For this one, I put on the tan hybrid sight just to add a little bit more tan to our gun, and then you can use the CA2 buffer tube to put the tan buttstock on it, or you can take that and put on the MOE tan stock, which then you throw the butt pad on. And while this isn't really your conventional M4, it does still have decent stats. We're looking at 50 vertical recoil and 73 ergonomics. You can always switch out this tan foregrip for, say, an RK1. You're going to be looking at 47 recoil for that. Since it's such a slight dip in the recoil, I actually just stick with the tan foregrip. Lastly, we'll talk about the Meta M4, which is going to be just your lowest possible recoil, and probably your most expensive to put together. We're going to use the HK Ergo pistol grip, which actually gives you a huge ergonomics bonus. HK-E1 stock, as we'd seen earlier in that parts rundown. We'll use the red buffer tube just to get the maximum benefits on this gun. We'll have our M-Bus front and rear sights up here. I use a simple red dot when I run the Meta M4. You can always throw a scope on top as well and go canted on the side. Everybody knows the RK2 gives you the maximum recoil benefits, and then, as we had talked about earlier, we're going to use the SAI quad rail along with the Jailbreak and the Bulletech ST6012, and this gives you your maximum recoil reductions. So this gun in total, we're looking at 34 vertical recoil and 68 erg, which actually 68 isn't bad at all. Now let's look at the price to put this guy together. In order to put this guy together, you're looking at about 360k. Part of that is because this red buffer tube is actually only found in Raid. You can't get it from any of the traders. So the market will fluctuate, and that's the price you're going to have to pay. I've seen it go up as high as 110. I've seen it as low as 50. As well, these PMags, again, I would recommend trading for it instead of paying the price on the market for it. And other than that, most of these parts are coming from traders, which is going to significantly reduce your price. But in order to build a meta M4, you're going to be dropping quite a bit of cash. I'd say 350 to 400k just to put that guy together. Then you've got to fill it with bullets and hope you don't die. I know a lot of this information isn't brand new, but I know a lot of folks haven't really delved into building M4s before. So I hope you all enjoyed yourselves. I certainly enjoyed putting this together. I love the M4. It's probably my favorite gun in Escape from Tarkov, and I use it all the time. If you guys have any amazing builds or want to share maybe improvements on mine, please feel free to join our Discord and post up the screenshots of your M4 builds. Or if you have any other amazing builds for any guns, please feel free to share with us. There should be a link in the description to join our Discord, and I hope to see you in there. There's also a link to our Twitch stream. I am live every weekday, and I hope to see you guys in there sometime. We'll run some M4s together and show you how they work. And remember, be excellent to each other.
Try to catch me howling at the moon.